I knew something was wrong the moment my phone lit up with 3 fraud alerts in a row. Ding. 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 3 texts, all from our bank, all within 60 seconds. I was standing in our kitchen, the one I'd spent 2 years renovating while he complained about the cost of Italian marble, holding a half-empty wine glass and staring at my phone like it had just slapped me across the face. Transaction approved. $2,4 Le Ciel Rooftop, Manhattan. Transaction approved. $1,95 Le Ciel Rooftop, Manhattan. Transaction approved. $1,85 Le Ciel Rooftop, Manhattan. $6,200 in 10 minutes at a restaurant in Midtown. But my husband was supposed to be in Chicago on a business trip, a confidential client meeting he couldn't tell me about because of some NDA he waved in my face like a get-out-of-jail-free card. I stood there, frozen, watching the numbers blur on the screen. Le Ciel Rooftop. Le Ciel. The same restaurant I begged him to take me to for our 15th anniversary last year, the one with the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park. The one I showed him on my phone, my voice embarrassingly hopeful, like a kid asking for a trip to Disneyland. You know what he said? He laughed. Claire, that place is a scam. $200 for a steak? It's for bored housewives who need Instagram content. Bored housewives. I remember the exact way his lip curled when he said it, like I was beneath him for even suggesting it. So we went to Applebee's instead. He ordered the 2 for $20 deal and spent the entire dinner on his phone. But now he was dropping over $6,000 at the place he called a scam. My hands started shaking. I opened my banking app, checked the timestamp. 9:47 p.m. 10 minutes ago. I looked at the clock on the microwave. 9:56 p.m. He was there right now. I called the bank. My voice didn't even sound like mine, it was tight, mechanical, like I was reading from a script. Hi, yes. I'm calling about some charges on my husband's black card. Can you confirm the cardholder's location? The woman on the other end was polite. Too polite. Yes, Mrs. Turner. The card was used at Le Ciel Rooftop in Manhattan. The cardholder is, well, the server noted that Mr. Turner was dining with a guest. A young woman. The room tilted. I heard myself say, "Thank you," and I hung up. For a long time, I just stood there. The wine glass was still in my hand. I don't remember putting it down, but suddenly it was on the counter and I was gripping the edge of the marble so hard my knuckles turned white. A young woman. My husband wasn't in Chicago. He wasn't at a client meeting. He was 800 miles away from where he said he'd be, throwing our money at some rooftop restaurant he once mocked me for wanting to visit, buying champagne and Wagyu for a woman who wasn't me. And he thought I'd never know. I could feel it rising in my chest, something sharp and cold and final. Not sadness. Not yet. This was something else. Clarity. Because here's the thing about being married for 17 years. You know when someone's lying. You know the signs. The late-night work calls. The new cologne. The way he suddenly started going to the gym at 6 a.m. when he used to sleep until 8. The password on his phone that changed 3 times in 2 months. I knew. I just didn't want to know. But now I had proof. Time-stamped, $signed, undeniable proof. I opened my laptop. Logged into our joint account. And I stared at the screen for a long time. The black card, the one he loved flashing at business dinners, the one that made him feel like a big shot, was linked to an account I controlled. Jointly. 50-50. My name right next to his. Funny how he always forgot that part. I moved the cursor over his card number. Hovered. And then I clicked. Card status. Suspended. It took 2 seconds. 2 seconds to cut off every cent he thought he owned. I sat back. My heart was pounding, but my hands were steady now. Somewhere in Manhattan, in a restaurant with imported French linens and a sommelier who probably called him sir, my husband's card was about to be declined. In front of her. Whoever she was, I imagined his face. The confusion, the panic, the humiliation. And for the first time in months, I smiled. I poured myself another glass of wine, took a slow sip, and I whispered to the empty kitchen. That was the moment my stomach dropped. My husband wasn't on a business trip. He was on a date with my money. I set the glass down. And that night, I cut off every cent he ever touched. But that was just the beginning. The smell of coffee still does it to me. Not the fancy stuff, the kind Mark drinks now, with oat milk and some pretentious single-origin bean he orders online. No, I mean the cheap diner coffee. The kind that comes in a paper cup with a plastic lid that never quite seals right. That's what I was drinking the morning I quit my job. I was 29, assistant hospital administrator at Mount Sinai. I had a corner office. Well, technically it was more of a corner cubicle, but it had a window. I could see the East River if I leaned far enough to the left. I was on track for a promotion. My boss had just told me I was someone to watch. And then Mark asked me to come home. We were sitting in our tiny studio in Astoria, the one where you could hear every footstep from the apartment upstairs. He was 2 years into building his consulting firm, working 18-hour days, coming home so tired he'd fall asleep with his shoes still on. He looked at me that morning with those serious eyes, the ones that made me feel like I was the only person in the world who mattered. "Claire, I need you home. A strong man needs a strong foundation. I can't build this without you." I remember feeling proud. Like I'd been chosen for something important. So I quit. I told myself it was temporary. That once the business got off the ground, I'd go back. That we were a team. "Everything I have is ours," he used to say. I believed him. For 14 years, I believed him. I became the foundation. I managed everything. The bills, the schedule, the life we built together. When his mother got sick, stage 3 breast cancer, I was the one who moved her into our guest room. I was the one who drove her to chemo every Tuesday and Thursday for 8 months. I held her hand when she cried. I cleaned up when she couldn't make it to the bathroom in time. Mark was too busy with client meetings. I worked part-time as a medical billing consultant from home. It wasn't glamorous. It didn't have a corner office or a view of the river, but it paid. And when Mark's firm hit a rough patch in year 3 and we were 60 days behind on the mortgage, my paycheck kept us afloat. I paid for his MBA. I wrote the check $42,000 from an inheritance my grandmother left me. Mark said it was an investment in our future, that once he had the degree, the clients would come, the money would follow. He was right about that part at least. When he finally launched Turner Consulting Group 5 years ago, he needed startup capital. The bank wouldn't give him a loan. His credit was a mess, something about unpaid business expenses from a failed venture in his 20s that he'd never told me about. So I liquidated my retirement account. 40% of his company's startup capital came from me. From the $401k I'd been building since I was 22. I handed it over without hesitation. Because that's what you do when you love someone. When you believe in them. When they look you in the eye and say, "We're in this together." I used to pack his lunches. Every morning. Turkey and Swiss on whole wheat, an apple, a granola bar. I'd leave a note in the bag sometimes. Stupid little things like, "You've got this," or "Proud of you." He stopped reading them around year 7. I know because I found a stack of them, unopened, in the bottom drawer of his desk. But I kept writing them anyway. If you've ever given everything to someone who later turned away, you'll understand this part. You'll understand how easy it is to pour yourself into another person, to believe that love is measured in sacrifices, in the things you give up to make someone else's dreams come true. Thank you to everyone who helps keep these stories alive. Every word you share, every act of kindness helps protect those who still believe in family. I didn't mind the work. I didn't mind being invisible. What I minded, what I didn't see until it was too late, was that somewhere along the way, I stopped being his partner. I became his resource. And resources get used up. Last year, on our 16th anniversary, I suggested we go out. Somewhere nice. Somewhere that wasn't our living room with Thai takeout and Netflix. He said he was too tired. 3 weeks later, I found a receipt in his jacket pocket. Dinner at the Modern, $340. For 2. When I asked him about it, he said it was a client dinner. I didn't know clients ordered 2 glasses of Veuve Clicquot and shared the chocolate soufflé, I said. He laughed, kissed my forehead, told me I was being paranoid. And I believed him. Because I wanted to. I didn't know then that Mark wasn't the only one feeding off my sacrifices. I didn't know there was someone else sitting across from him, tasting the life I'd paid for. The text came through at 10:43 p.m. It was from my friend Jessica. We used to work together at Mount Sinai before I quit. She still lives in the city, works late, grabs drinks in Midtown on Thursdays. The message was short. "Claire, I swear I just saw your husband at Le Monte. But he wasn't alone." My stomach dropped before my brain could catch up. I typed back with shaking fingers. "Are you sure it was him?" 3 dots appeared. disappeared, appeared again. Then a photo came through. I didn't want to open it. I opened it anyway. There he was. Mark, my husband, sitting in a leather booth under soft amber lighting, the kind of place that charges $30 for a cocktail. He was smiling. Not the tired, distracted smile he gave me at home. This was different, open, alive. And next to him, pressed against his side, her hand resting on his chest, was a girl. She couldn't have been older than 23. Long dark hair, red dress, the kind of dress I used to wear before I stopped trying. She was laughing, feeding him something off her fork. He was letting her. I stared at the photo until the screen went dark, then I opened it again, and again. Like maybe if I looked hard enough it would change. Like maybe it wasn't him. But it was. I called him. It rang 4 times, then voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. Then a text popped up. Can't talk. Meetings. Miss you. Meetings don't wear red dresses. I sat on the edge of our bed, the bed I'd picked out, paid for, made every morning for 14 years, and I felt something crack open inside me. Not sadness. Not yet. Rage. I stood up, grabbed my keys, went straight to the garage. His car was parked where it always was, a black Audi A6, lease paid by our joint account. I pulled open the passenger door and started searching. Glove compartment, nothing. Center console, receipts, gum wrappers. A parking stub from 2 weeks ago, Newark Airport. He told me he drove to Philadelphia that weekend. I kept digging. Under the seat, I found a hotel receipt. The Greenwich Hotel, 2 nights, suite occupancy, 2 adults. Check-in date, 3 weeks ago. The same weekend he told me he was visiting a college buddy in Boston. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped it. I pulled the seats forward, checked the back, and there, tucked into the pocket behind the driver's seat, was a phone. Not his phone. A second phone. I turned it on. No password. The screen lit up. Messages. Dozens of them. All to one contact. Lily. I scrolled. Can't wait to see you tonight. You're all I think about. 2 more days and I'm yours again. And then one from her. Suite 47. Ask for Lily. I'll be waiting. The date stamp. Last Tuesday. The same Tuesday he told me he had an all-day conference in Boston. I dropped the phone like it burned me. Everything I'd been telling myself, that I was paranoid, that I was imagining things, that I was being unfair, shattered. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This was a system. A routine. He had another life. Another woman. Another version of himself that didn't include me. And he'd been funding it with money I earned. Money I gave him. Money from the retirement account I cashed out to build his dream. If you've ever trusted someone so deeply that their betrayal made you question your own worth, you're not alone. Thank you to everyone who helps me tell these stories. Your support keeps this space alive for those who still believe that truth, somehow, will always find its way. I went back inside, walked straight to his office, the one I wasn't supposed to enter because it was his space. I opened every drawer, and that's when I found it. A folder, tucked behind his file cabinet. Inside, bank statements. For an account I'd never seen before. An account in his name only. Opened 4 years ago. With deposits I recognized. Bonuses from clients. Payments from contracts I'd helped him negotiate. Invoices I'd sent. Follow-ups I'd managed while he was too busy. Money that was supposed to be ours. Money he'd been siphoning off, hiding. The balance. $127,000. $127,000. While I'd been stretching our grocery budget. While I'd been putting off fixing my car. While I'd been telling myself we needed to be careful because the business was still growing. He had a secret account. With more money than I'd seen in 5 years. I stood there in his office, holding that statement, and I felt something inside me go completely still. Not heartbreak. Not even anger anymore. Something colder. Clarity. And then I found something worse. Something that broke me more than the affair itself. I found the wire transfers in a PDF, buried 3 folders deep on his laptop. 3万8千美元. Sent over 6 months. In increments of $4,000, $6,000, $500, $8,000, always on the 15th of the month. Always to the same name. Elena Reyes. Not Lily. Elena. I Googled the name. Found a woman in her late 50s. Queens. A small apartment near Astoria Park. I couldn't find a connection to Mark. Not at first. Then I saw her daughter's Instagram. A girl in her early 20s. Dark hair. Red dress in half the photos. Her name was Lily Reyes. He wasn't just sleeping with her. He was supporting her family. With my money. I sat there staring at the screen until my vision blurred. The laptop was still open, the numbers glowing. I didn't cry. I couldn't. I just sat there, feeling the weight of it press down on my chest like a stone. I needed to talk to someone, anyone. So I called his sister, Rachel. She picked up on the third ring. I could hear her kids screaming in the background. "Rachel, I need to ask you something." Her voice went tight. "Claire. Hi. What's up? Did you know?" Silence. "Did you know Mark was cheating on me?" A long pause. Then, "Claire, listen. You know how men are. They slip. It happens. It doesn't mean he doesn't love you." I felt my hand tighten around the phone. "He's been sending money to her mother, Rachel, thousands of dollars, for 6 months. Another pause. "Look, I don't know the details, okay? But whatever's going on, don't make it a big thing. Don't embarrass the family. Don't embarrass the family. Not I'm so sorry. Not are you okay? Don't embarrass the family." I hung up. And that's when I realized. They all knew. His mother, his sister, maybe his friends, the people I'd cooked for, hosted, smiled at across holiday tables. They knew. And they let me keep going. Keep sacrificing, keep believing. Because it was easier that way. Because I was useful. The house is so quiet now. I don't play music anymore. I don't turn on the TV. I just sit in the living room and listen to the hum of the refrigerator, the ticking of the hallway clock, the muffled sounds of the neighbors through the wall. Even the walls seem to avoid me. I washed the same coffee cup 4 times yesterday. I didn't need to. I just needed something to do with my hands. There's an anniversary cake in the fridge. Store-bought. I got it 3 weeks ago, back when I still thought we'd celebrate 17 years together. It's still in the box, untouched, the frosting starting to crack. I can't bring myself to throw it away. My wedding ring is sitting on the bathroom counter. I took it off 2 nights ago and I haven't put it back on. Every time I walk past it, I stop, stare at it, wonder if I should. I don't. If you've ever sat in a room so quiet it started to echo your thoughts, you'll understand this silence. Thank you to those who help keep these stories alive. Your kindness helps give voice to people who've been forgotten, who sit alone in their pain, waiting to be seen again. I used to think betrayal would be loud, explosive, that I'd scream or throw things or fall apart in some visible, dramatic way. But it's not like that. Betrayal doesn't scream. It whispers. It isolates you. It makes you feel small. It makes you question everything, every conversation, every smile, every moment you thought was real. It makes you the villain in your own home. Was I not enough? Was I too much? Did I ask for too little, or give too freely? Was I really that blind? I replay every fight, every late night, every excuse. The business trip to Dallas that ran long. The conference in Miami he didn't want me to attend. The weekend in Denver where he said the hotel Wi-Fi was bad so he couldn't FaceTime. How many of those were her? How many times did I kiss him hello when he came home smelling like someone else? I lie in bed now and count the cracks in the ceiling. There are 11. I've memorized their shapes. The one near the window looks like a river. The one above the closet splits into 2, like a fork in the road. I wonder which path I should have taken. I wonder if there was ever a choice at all. Yesterday, a neighbor saw me getting the mail. She smiled, waved. Then her face changed, like she remembered something. She looked away, kept walking. They know too. Everyone knows. I am alone in a house full of things we bought together. Furniture we picked out, pictures we framed, a life I thought was ours. But it was never ours. It was always his. And I was just the woman holding it together. I sit here now, in the dark, in the silence, and I wonder if this is how it ends. If this is all I get. But despair is a strange thing. When it reaches the bottom, something else rises. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open and called Danny Ortiz. Danny and I went to college together. He became a forensic accountant. The kind of guy you call when someone's cooking the books and you need proof that'll hold up in court. I hadn't spoken to him in 3 years. He picked up on the second ring. "Claire?" "Danny, I need a favor." Name it. I need you to run a financial review. Quietly. On my husband. There was a pause, then. How bad is it? I don't know yet, that's why I'm calling you. Send me what you have. I sent him everything. Bank statements, the wire transfers, the secret account, the hotel receipts, the second phone with Lily's messages. 2 days later, he called me back. His voice was different. Tight. Claire, we need to talk. In person. We met at a diner in Midtown. He slid a folder across the table. I'm sorry, he said. But you need to see this. Inside were documents I'd never seen before. A quitclaim deed. Transferring ownership of our house, the one I'd poured my inheritance into, to a shell company called Turner Holdings LLC, dated 6 months ago. My name wasn't on it. He's been moving assets, Danny said quietly. Slowly. Strategically. He opened 2 accounts in his name only. Routed client payments through them. Kept just enough in the joint account to make things look normal. I stared at the papers. There's more, Danny continued. He filed a financial affidavit last month. Listed you as financially dependent. No income, no assets. Claimed you've been a homemaker with no earning capacity for over a decade. My throat tightened. He's setting you up, Claire. If he files for divorce, he's positioned himself to walk away with everything. The house. The business. The accounts. And you'd be left fighting for scraps. I felt something cold settle in my chest. When was he planning to file? Danny flipped a page, pointed to an email thread he'd recovered. It was between Mark and a divorce attorney. The subject line: timeline for clean exit. The attorney's response: wait until the new job is secured. Then file. Less messy. Less risk. Mark's reply: agreed, let's aim for January. January. 2 months away. I sat back. The diner noise, clattering dishes, conversation, the hiss of the coffee machine felt like it was happening in another room. Danny leaned forward. Claire, I pulled the credit card data too. Every business trip he took in the last year, they all match up. Charges from rooftop bars, hotels with spa packages. Restaurants that don't do corporate accounts. He slid another sheet across the table. A timeline. Mark's trips, Lily's Instagram posts, the wire transfers to Elena Reyes. They all lined up, perfectly. He'd been funding both of them, mother and daughter, with money from our joint account. Money I helped earn, money I trusted him with. If you've ever found truth in the quiet moments after pain, you know what this part feels like. Thank you to everyone who supports these stories. Your kindness keeps hope alive for people still finding their voice after betrayal. That night my phone buzzed. A text from Mark. Flying home late, don't wait up. I stared at the message. And I smiled. Not a warm smile. Not a sad one. Something else. I typed back, safe flight. Then I opened my laptop. I pulled up every document Danny had given me. Every receipt. Every transfer. Every lie. And I started making copies. I stopped being the good wife that night. I became something else. A strategist. There comes a point when silence stops, meaning defeat. It becomes preparation. I sat at the kitchen table the morning after Danny showed me the documents. The sun was just starting to filter through the blinds, casting long strips of light across the floor. There was a cold cup of coffee in front of me. I hadn't touched it in an hour. The house was so quiet I could hear the hum of the refrigerator, the ticking of the clock in the hallway, my own breathing. For years, this silence would have made me anxious. I would have filled it with cleaning, cooking, errands, anything to keep myself useful. But now, the silence felt different. It felt like power. I opened my laptop. First, I logged into our joint account. I transferred every dollar I'd contributed, tracked meticulously over the years through my own deposits, my freelance checks, my inheritance into a new account, one that only had my name on it. Then I froze the joint account. It took 3 clicks. Mark's black card, the one he used to impress clients, to buy drinks for Lily, to fund Elena Reyes' rent, became worthless plastic. I sat back and stared at the screen. Each keystroke was a knife cut through the chains. Next, I called a locksmith. He arrived 2 hours later. A quiet man in his 50s who didn't ask questions. He changed every lock in the house. Front door, back door, garage, even the side gate. When he handed me the new keys, I felt something shift in my chest. This was my house. I paid for it. And now, it was locked. I contacted a lawyer that afternoon. Her name was Sharon Mendez. She came highly recommended by Danny. Specialized in high-asset divorce and marital fraud. We met at her office in Lower Manhattan. I brought everything. The wire transfers. The secret accounts. The timeline Danny had built. The texts from Lily's phone. The hotel receipts. Sharon spread them across her desk like a hand of cards. She looked up at me, her expression calm but sharp. "Claire, this is a solid case. He's committed financial fraud, moved marital assets without your consent, misrepresented your financial standing. We can file for an emergency asset freeze, a fraud report, and a petition for marital misconduct." "How long?" I asked. "We can file by end of week." "Do it." She nodded. "One more thing. I'd recommend hiring a private investigator. Get real-time documentation. Photos, timestamps, GPS data. If he's still seeing her, we need it on record." I hired the investigator that same day. His name was Luis, former NYPD. He worked fast. Within 72 hours I had a file. Photos of Mark and Lily leaving a hotel in Tribeca, holding hands, kissing on the street corner like they had nothing to hide. Timestamps showing Mark's location during every business trip he'd taken in the last 6 months. GPS pings from his car, his phone, even his smartwatch. Every lie, every excuse, every late-night text that said stuck in traffic or client ran long. All of it documented, dated, undeniable. For years, I mistook generosity for love. Now, I'm learning the quiet math of self-respect. I didn't tell Mark any of this. I didn't confront him, didn't ask questions, didn't cry or yell or beg for an explanation. I just kept moving, quietly, precisely, irreversibly. I listed the house for sale with a realtor I trusted. She understood the situation, told me we could move fast if needed. I opened a new credit card in my name only. I changed my passwords, email, bank, phone, everything. I made copies of every important document: marriage certificate, tax returns, mortgage paperwork, his business filings. I stored them in 3 separate locations. People underestimate silence. They think it means weakness. But silence is where strategy grows. Mark came home 2 days later. He walked in like nothing had changed, dropped his bag by the door, kissed me on the forehead. "Hey, babe, miss me?" I smiled. Always. He didn't notice that the locks had been changed. That I'd given him a new key without explanation. He didn't notice that I was calmer than I'd been in months. He went to his office, closed the door, made some calls, and I sat in the kitchen, drinking tea, watching the clock. It's funny how silence can sound like thunder when guilt starts to echo. At 9:14 the next morning, Mark's first call came. I was sitting at the table when my phone buzzed. His name lit up the screen. I let it ring. He called again. I sipped my coffee. Then a third time. Then texts started flooding in. "Claire, call me. Something's wrong with the card. The account is frozen. What's going on? Claire, call me now." By noon, he'd called 60 times. I didn't answer once, because they taught me that love meant giving. Today, I'm teaching myself that love can also mean stopping. I looked out the window. The morning light was soft golden, filtering through the trees in our backyard. For the first time in years, I felt something I'd almost forgotten: hope. Sharon's email arrived at 2:47 p.m. Subject line: documents ready for filing. I opened it. Emergency asset freeze. Marital misconduct petition. Fraud report. All prepared. All signed. All waiting for one click. I hovered over the send button. And I smiled. For the first time, I didn't need them to hear me. My silence had already spoken. Mark came home at 11:47 p.m. I heard the key scratch against the lock. Once. Twice. Then harder. He'd forgotten I changed them. I walked to the door and opened it myself. He stood there, his face flushed, his jaw tight. His tie was loosened, his eyes wild. "What the hell is going on, Claire?" I stepped aside. "Let him in." He stormed past me into the kitchen, threw his briefcase on the counter. "Why did you freeze my card? Do you have any idea what you just did?" I was with a client. A major client. My card was declined in front of him. Do you know how that looks? I didn't say anything. I just walked to the table, sat down, and slid a manila folder across the surface. He stared at it. What's this? Open it. He hesitated, then grabbed it, pulled out the first page. A photo. Him and Lily, outside the Greenwich Hotel, her hand on his chest, his arm around her waist. He went pale. Where did you? I slid another sheet forward. A bank statement, showing $38,000 in wire transfers to Elena Reyes. Then another. Hotel receipts, 2-night stays, suite upgrades, room service charges for 2. Then another. The second phone. Screenshots of his text to Lily. Can't wait to see you tonight. You're all I think about. 2 more days, and I'm yours again. Mark's hands were shaking now. Claire, listen to me. Which client wears a red dress and books Suite 47? His mouth opened. Closed. No words came out. I kept going. The Lucille rooftop charges? That was her. The trips to Chicago, Boston, Denver? All her. The secret account you opened 4 years ago? I found it. The $127,000 you've been hiding while I clipped coupons and stretched our grocery budget? I know about that too. His face was white now, bloodless. And this, I said, sliding the final document across the table, is the quitclaim deed you filed 6 months ago, transferring our house, the one I paid for with my inheritance, to a shell company. In your name only. He couldn't look at me. You were going to divorce me in January, after your new job came through. Leave me with nothing. List me as financially dependent, so I couldn't fight back. His voice cracked. Claire, it's not what? I stood up. My voice was calm. Cold. Not what it looks like? Not that bad? Not your fault? He reached for me. Baby, please. Don't. He froze. I took a step back. This house you were trying to steal? It's already under contract. My contract, I'm selling it, and every dollar from the sale goes into an account with my name only. The one you can't touch. His eyes widened. You can't. I already did. That's when his phone rang. It was sitting on the counter. Face up. The screen lit up. Lily. Mark's eyes darted to it, then back to me. I walked over, picked it up. Answered. Hello? A young woman's voice. Nervous. Is Mark there? Mark is busy, I said, my voice steady, losing everything he stole. Try later. I hung up. Mark lunged toward me. I didn't flinch. One more step, I said quietly, and the cops will arrive in under 3 minutes. Remember the restraining order draft my lawyer prepared? It's ready to file. All I have to do is make one call. He stopped. His chest was heaving. His fists clenched at his sides. For 17 years I'd been afraid of this man's anger, his moods, his silence. But now, standing in our kitchen, my kitchen, I felt nothing but calm, because I wasn't the one who should be afraid anymore. The doorbell rang. Mark turned, confused. I walked past him and opened the door. Sharon Mendez stood on the porch, flanked by a process server in a dark jacket holding a clipboard. She looked at me, nodded, then turned to Mark. Mr. Turner, you've been served. The process server stepped forward, handed him an envelope. Mark stared at it like it might explode. What is this? Sharon's voice was calm. Professional. Emergency asset freeze. Petition for marital misconduct. Fraud investigation. And a formal request for a forensic audit of all joint and separate accounts opened during your marriage. You have 72 hours to respond. Any attempt to move, hide, or transfer assets will be considered contempt of court. Mark's hands were trembling so hard he almost dropped the envelope. He looked at me. For the first time in years, I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Fear. Not of me. Of the truth. Sharon turned to leave. The process server followed. I stood in the doorway watching them go. Mark's voice came from behind me, small, broken. Claire, please. I didn't turn around. You should call Lily, I said quietly. You're going to need somewhere to stay. I walked upstairs, locked the bedroom door. And for the first time in months, I slept through the night. After the verdict, silence became my favorite sound. It was the sound of justice finally breathing. I didn't hear from Mark for 3 days after he was served. No calls. No texts. No desperate knocks on the door at 2 a.m. Just silence. And in that silence, the world began to correct itself. The first thing I heard came from Danny. He called me on a Tuesday morning while I was drinking coffee on the back porch, the same porch I used to sit on alone while Mark was working late. "Claire, you should know. Turner Consulting just put out a statement. Mark's been suspended pending an internal investigation." I set my cup down. Investigation? Financial misconduct, misuse of company resources. Apparently, some of those business trips were billed to client accounts. The clients noticed. They're not happy. I didn't say anything. Danny continued. Word's getting around. His reputation's tanking fast. 2 clients have already pulled their contracts. I thanked him. Hung up. And I sat there, staring at the trees in the yard, feeling nothing but a strange, weightless calm. I didn't need to ruin them. Their lies had already done that. A week later, I ran into Jessica at a coffee shop in the village. She grabbed my hand across the table, her eyes wide. "Claire, have you heard?" "Heard what?" "Lily dumped him." I blinked. "How do you know?" "She posted it on Instagram." "Well, she didn't name him, but everyone knows. She wrote this whole thing about learning that some men only look rich when they're spending someone else's money." Jessica pulled out her phone, showed me the post. There was Lily in a black turtleneck, staring pensively out a window. The caption read, "Sometimes you find out too late that the life you thought you were entering was just borrowed. I deserve better. So I'm walking away." The comments were brutal. "Girl, you dodged a bullet. Wait, wasn't this the guy who got fired?" "He's broke now, lol, you're smart." I handed the phone back. Jessica leaned in. Apparently, she blocked him. Changed her number. Moved back in with her mom. I took a sip of my latte. "Good for her," I said quietly. And I meant it. Because Lily wasn't the villain. She was just young and foolish and used by a man who was very good at lying. Just like I had been. Mark's family started reaching out 2 weeks after the papers were filed. First, it was his sister Rachel. She called me at 9 p.m. on a Thursday. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was clipped. Tense. "Claire, we need to talk. This is getting out of hand. Call me back." I deleted it. Then his mother called. I answered that one. "Claire, sweetheart," she said, her voice syrupy, the way it always was when she wanted something. "I heard about the house. You're really selling it?" "I am." A pause, then, "But Claire, that's the family home." "It's my home," I said calmly. "I paid for it. My inheritance. My name on the mortgage for the first 8 years. I'm selling it, and I'm keeping the proceeds." Her tone shifted. Colder now. "Claire, I understand you're upset. But you need to think about appearances. People are talking. This is embarrassing for all of us." I felt something tighten in my chest. "Appearances didn't stop him from humiliating me," I said quietly. Silence on the other end. "Forgive him, Claire. For the sake of the family. For the sake of—" I hung up. And I blocked her number. They used to whisper that I'd lost my mind. Now they avoid their own reflections. I saw Mark once, about a month later. It was by accident. I was leaving the grocery store in Brooklyn, arms full of bags, when I saw him across the parking lot. He was standing by an old Honda Civic. Not his Audi. That was gone. He looked thinner, tired. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair needed a cut. He saw me. For a moment we just stood there 20 feet apart, staring at each other across the asphalt. He opened his mouth like he was going to say something. I turned and walked to my car. I didn't run. I didn't hurry. I just left. Because there was nothing left to say. The house sold in 6 weeks. I got $1.2 million for it. Every cent went into an account in my name. Protected. Untouchable. I used some of it to rent a small apartment in the West Village. 1 bedroom, hardwood floors, a window that gets good light in the morning. It's quiet. It's mine. I heard through Danny that Mark's mother tried to contest the sale. Filed some kind of claim that she had a financial interest in the property because she'd lived there during her illness. It was thrown out in less than a week. The lawyer's letter was polite but firm. Mrs. Turner made no financial contributions to the property and has no legal standing. I didn't gloat. I didn't celebrate. I just kept moving forward. Some debts don't need to be collected. Life has its own way of balancing the books. One evening, I was unpacking boxes in my new apartment when I found an old photo. It was from our wedding day, Mark and me standing in front of the courthouse smiling. I was holding a bouquet of daisies. He had his arm around my waist. We looked so young, so sure. I stared at it for a long time. Then I walked to the window, opened it, and let the photo go. The wind caught it, carried it down into the street below. I watched it tumble through the air, smaller and smaller, until it disappeared. And I closed the window, turned back to my new life. And I breathed. After the noise fades, what's left isn't victory, it's understanding. I'm sitting on the balcony of my new apartment now, watching the sun set over the Hudson. The light catches the water just right, turning it gold and pink, like something out of a painting I'd never thought I deserved to see. The apartment is small, 1 bedroom. A kitchen with white subway tile and a window that gets morning light. There's a bookshelf I assembled myself crooked, but mine. A table for 2 that I'll probably only ever use for 1. And this balcony, my favorite part, where I drink my coffee in the mornings and watch the city wake up. It's quiet here. Not the suffocating quiet of that house I used to live in, where silence meant loneliness. This is different. This is peace. My lawyer called me last week. Sharon. She wanted to check in, see how I was settling in. Claire, she said, her voice warm through the phone, you didn't just win the case, you won yourself back. I didn't know what to say to that. Because she was right. For so long I thought justice meant watching Mark suffer, watching him lose his job, his reputation, his mistress, his money, watching him fall the way I had fallen. But now, sitting here in the fading light, I realize something. Justice isn't about watching them fall. It's about standing again without hate. It's about waking up in a space that's yours, with air that feels lighter, with a future that doesn't belong to anyone but you. I spent 17 years watering a garden of lies. I gave him my inheritance, my career, my time, my body, my patience, my forgiveness. I kept telling myself it was love. But love doesn't drain you. Love doesn't lie. Love doesn't take everything and call it partnership. The day I cut his black card, I began watering my freedom instead. And slowly, so slowly I didn't even notice at first something started to grow. I used to believe love meant giving everything. Now I know love also means knowing when to stop. Last month, I started working again. Not full-time. Not yet. But I reached out to an old colleague from Mount Sinai. She's running a consulting firm now, helping hospitals with operational efficiency. She needed someone who understood the system from the inside. She hired me on the spot. It's remote work, flexible hours. I can do it from my kitchen table with a cup of tea and my laptop. It's not glamorous, but it's mine. And for the first time in years, I'm using my brain again, not just to manage someone else's life, but to build something, to contribute, to matter in a way that doesn't depend on how well I can disappear. I got my first paycheck 2 weeks ago. I sat there staring at the deposit notification on my phone, and I cried. Not because it was a lot of money, but because I'd earned it. Me, Claire, not Mark's wife, not someone's foundation. Just me. Sometimes, late at night, I think about him. I wonder if he's okay. If he found a new place to live. If Lily ever unblocked him. If his mother still calls him. Or if she's written him off the way she tried to write me off. I don't wish him harm. I don't wish him anything really. Because wishing him harm would mean I'm still tied to him. And I'm not. Not anymore. If I could talk to the version of myself from a year ago, the one standing in the kitchen, staring at those bank alerts, shaking and confused, I'd tell her this. You're going to be okay. Not right away. Not even soon. But one day, you'll wake up and realize you didn't think about him first thing in the morning. You'll realize you're not angry anymore. You'll realize that the life you thought was falling apart was actually just making room for something better. Justice gave me back my name. But peace gave me back myself. There's a quote I read somewhere once. I don't remember who said it, but it stayed with me. Kindness without boundaries isn't love, it's surrender. I surrendered for 17 years. I gave and gave and gave, believing that's what good wives did. That's what strong women did. That sacrifice was noble. That silence was grace. But silence isn't grace when it's covering up lies. And sacrifice isn't love when the person you're sacrificing for is using you. If my story teaches anything, it's this. You can rebuild a life. You can reclaim your dignity. You can walk away from people who see your worth only in what you can give them. And sometimes the quietest revenge is the loudest justice. I'm not the same woman I was a year ago. I'm softer in some ways, harder in others. I cry more easily now, but I also laugh more freely. I trust less quickly, but I love more carefully. And I've learned that being alone isn't the same as being lonely. The sun is almost gone now. The sky is deep purple, streaked with orange. The city lights are starting to flicker on, one by one, like little promises that tomorrow will come. I take a sip of my tea. And I smile. Not because everything is perfect, but because I'm here, still standing, still breathing, still mine. If you've ever lost yourself trying to love someone who only saw your worth in numbers, I hope my story reminds you, it's never too late to choose yourself. Thank you for keeping these stories alive. Stories where justice doesn't shout, it heals. I close my eyes, feel the wind on my face, and I let it carry the past away.